Eagle's Nest Sinkhole has been known for luring both experienced and inexperienced divers to their deaths. Very poor visibility often affects the diver's sense of orientation, resulting in difficulties to find their way out. On October 15, 2016, 2 certified cave divers entered the cave system. After they didn't return to the agreed location, their friend reported them missing, and the search began. The Eagle's Nest Sinkhole, located in the Chassahowitzka Wildlife Management Area, Florida, is a murky, green-looking and algae-filled pond. From the surface, it doesn't look very fascinating. It looks like it's filled with alligators, and the swarms of mosquitoes and ticks above the surface can be annoying. You can barely find any sign that a beautiful world exists within this irritating pond. You can't judge a book by its cover, and this is indeed true of Eagle's Nest. If you're to look at the conditions surrounding the surface, you'll never behold the elegance of nature below it. Eagle's Nest Sinkhole has no stable visibility, so its visibility is dependent on the present conditions, including the state of the Florida aquifer and the amount of rainfall received in recent times. For the skilled divers who can do it safely, they've reported this cave system to be a wonderland. The underwater cave of Eagle's Nest is a dazzling top-class system. While entering, you will find a message board that divers use to note the dive situations within the cave. Sometimes it reads "diving by braille" with 0 visibility. That means you have to be very careful diving inside this cave system. Oftentimes, in the Eagle's Nest cave system, you'll find dark waters that were dyed with naturally occurring organic coloring called tannins. Funny enough, the water can be crystal clear and completely visible in good condition. It's just a magical underwater cave system. Your experience there would seem as if you were in a different world entirely. It's fascinating, but also dangerous. The Eagle's Nest cave system isn't child's play and shouldn't be considered an option for unskilled divers. Only experienced and certified divers should give it a try. You can easily get lost within the cave system because there's no specific place to get directions. It's an unforgiving cave, so to speak. If you're an experienced and certified diver, your qualifications might not be sufficient for a safe dive into Eagle's Nest. You'll need to become acquainted with the cave, maybe asking questions of the locals or previous divers. The cave is straightened, having narrow passages and making it difficult for divers to penetrate, except if you squeeze yourself into it. You might not be able to enter through the constricted entrances. You might have great difficulty entering the cave with your gear. When you go further into the cave system leads to large, beautiful rooms in the cave like the ballroom, the super room, and the pit. It's just a dangerous beauty anyway, a beauty that lured many into their untimely deaths. On Saturday morning, October 15, 2016, 3 divers went to the Eagle's Nest Sinkhole to experience life in its underwater cave system. 2 of these 3 divers, Patrick Peacock and Chris Rittenmeyer, came from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. They were both experienced cave divers who had dived in different cave systems in Florida, Mexico, and South America. This wasn't their first adventure to Eagle's Nest. They had dived into the cave system in the past. Patrick was a diving instructor. The 3rd diver, Justin Blakely, had no experience diving and had no idea what the cave system looked like. He arrived at the Eagle's Nest earlier than his 2 friends, so he waited for them. Patrick, Chris, and Justin arrived safely at the Eagle's Nest Sinkhole, and they started their dive around 2 p.m. on Saturday, October 15, 2016. They all had their scuba gear with them, and they went straight to the entrance of the cave, which was covered with murky and unappealing water. Patrick and Chris, being experienced divers, went into the dark cave system, exploring some of the rooms within the cave. Justin, who wasn't that experienced, decided to stay close to the surface. The 3 divers planned to reassemble at a particular place by 3 p.m., which was just an hour and a half after they started their dive. Justin, who was diving alone, returned after about half an hour to the agreed location. When he got there, he couldn't find the other 2 divers, so he returned to diving again. He spent about 30 minutes again and returned to the same location, yet the 2 weren't there. He continued waiting, all to no avail. Justin began to panic when he couldn't see his friends returning from their dives after some hours. He wasn't experienced, so searching for them isn't an option for him. He had to return to the surface to call for help. At about 6 p.m., Justin was able to get through to the police, and many people came to the scene when the report was sent abroad. Search teams were set to start their operations. The first search team, John Bernot and Charlie Roberson, commenced their dive at around 11 p.m. They were searching the upstream passages. The dive plan was reported by the third diver, Justin, to be along that upstream. When the first search team entered, they started observing the decompression habitat and discovered 3 bottles marked O2 at 20 feet. At about 70 feet, 4 bottles were staged. Also, they saw 2 bottles that were marked 120, staged downstream from the guideline at about 120 feet into the cave. But they went upstream according to the missing divers' dive plan. They did a comprehensive search throughout all the tunnels on the upstream side, but couldn't find the 2 divers. Then they returned to the entrance room, and from there, they searched through the tunnels downstream, together with the Lockwood Tunnel. There were no traces of the missing divers there. After a futile effort, the first search team returned to the surface at about 3:30 a.m. the following morning. The second search team, Ted McCoy and A.J. Gonzalez, started their dive around 3:45 a.m. They started with the downstream tunnels. Not long after their search began, they found the 2 bodies at an exit side of the pit, one of the largest rooms of the cave system. The second search team documented the details of the scene where the bodies were found, spending about 45 minutes doing that. From their observations, they discovered that one of the divers was still wearing his closed-circuit rebreather, but his bailouts were already displaced. Bailouts are underwater bottles used as an emergency gas supply in case the primary gas supply fails. They saw an empty gas cylinder beside him attached to his rig, and a long hose was also attached to it and was set up. His loop was out of his mouth and left open, and the hose that was on the inhale side was squeezed. Onboard O2 had 300 psi left, but the onboard diluent bottle was empty. He did not have a primary light head, and the backup lights were not well positioned. The scooter they found wasn't close to him, but it was unclipped and turned off. The second missing diver, whose body was found in almost the same place, had a dry suit on him, along with his mask and fins. He had a backup light turned off and dangling from his pocket. He was positively buoyant. He had no other bottles close to him. There was a full gas cylinder staged on the exit side of the pit confinement, though it was difficult to know if something was there. They saw that the missing primary lighthead was found in the same place. They found another full cylinder downstream of the jump to the Lockwood Tunnel. 2 of the 4 side-mounted bailouts were found downstream of the pit constraint but were empty. The second search team returned to the surface since their tasks were just to locate and document the details of the place the bodies were found. The following afternoon, which was Sunday, October 16, 2016, a team of 2 divers, Eric Deister and Colt Smith, went into the cave system with the details they'd gotten from the second search team to recover the bodies. They brought the 2 bodies out from around the pit exit side to the top of the ballroom. There were 2 other divers, Ken Salad and another diver, who were both waiting for the first recovery team. When they brought the bodies to them, they brought them to the surface. Another team then went to the scene on Monday, October 17, 2016, in the morning to recover every other piece of equipment that was left in the cave system. John Bernot, the diver from the first search team, and James Draker were the team members that went for this equipment recovery. They found 2 scooters, the second missing diver's rebreather, and a bailout bottle at the gold line outside the constraint that was leading to Revelation space. His closed-circuit rebreather loop was closed, but seemed to be fully operational. They removed all these and handed them over to the authorities for evidence and proper analysis. Patrick and Chris's deaths became a topic for debate for several years among divers. No documented analysis of the cause of Patrick and Chris's deaths is available for the public. However, Chuck Walls, a diving expert, speculated that the unfortunate incident was the result of nitrogen narcosis. Patrick and Chris were both found in the most dangerous and complex area of the cave, at a depth of 260 feet, suggesting that nitrogen narcosis could have been the cause of their deaths. Nitrogen narcosis tends to occur when divers reach depths of about 100 feet. It results in loss of consciousness caused by a tranquilizing effect of some gases at high pressure. Anyone suffering from narcosis is not able to make the right judgment about his environment and will become confused. This oftentimes causes the divers to drown if they are not immediately able to surface or are not rescued. They considered Eagle's Nest to be a disastrous cave system that must be prohibited for further diving adventures, since several divers have been lost in this dangerous cave. The entrance to the cave had earlier been banned by the state in 1999, but was opened again in 2003. This was a result of pressure mounted upon the state authorities by the National Association for Cave Divers and the National Speleological Society Cave Diving Section. At this same Eagle's Nest cave system, 2 divers lost their lives in 2013 on a Christmas day. The father and son went to test their Christmas gifts and new air tanks. Darren Spivey, a certified diver, and his son, who was just 15 years old with not much experience, went into the cave to test their air tanks. To find out what happened, check out the video on our channel. We'd like to thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed watching, take a dive on the like and subscribe buttons and hit the bell icon so you get notified when we come back with another exciting cave diving story.